All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty intense, a hypothetical scenario of a 2026 war between the US and Iran. We're going to break down how one particular analysis sees this whole thing spiraling out of control and pushing the entire world right to the edge.
So it all really comes to a head with this one moment. Picture this. It's April 7th, 2026, 5:36 p.m. The American president just posts this absolutely shocking threat on social media. I mean, you can just imagine the world holding its breath, right? Everyone wondering, is this it? Is this the start of a war that could end a civilization?
Okay, hang on. Before we get any deeper, I need to make something crystal clear. Everything we're talking about today is purely speculative. This is a breakdown of a hypothetical war scenario from a popular online analysis. It's not a real news report, all right? Super important to remember that.
So you have to ask, how in the world did things get so bad? How did we get to a civilization-ending threat? Well, let's rewind a bit. Let's trace the steps that took this from just a regional conflict to a full-blown global crisis.
So according to this analysis, the war kicks off on February 28th, but things get serious, like really serious, on March 21st. We're talking attacks on Iran's most sensitive nuclear sites. But the real game changer? That happens on April 3rd. That's the day an event unfolds that just changes the entire dynamic of the war.
And the human cost in this scenario, it's just staggering to think about. We're talking about the first 50 days alone. The source claims that over 4,000 people were killed. And that's not just in one place. These are casualties from Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and even among American forces.
But, it's not just about that number, 4,000. It's about what that number represents. The analysis really drives home that behind each one of those casualties is a story. We're talking about over 7,000 families completely destroyed and millions of people displaced, forced to just run from their homes.
Okay, so let's go back to that key date, April 3rd. What happened that day? Well, it was way more than just a military loss. It was an event that completely shattered the story, the narrative that the White House was trying to sell to the world.
This is where things get really interesting. You have this massive contradiction, right? On one hand, you've got President Trump saying things like, we have total air dominance and they are militarily defeated. But then, what's the reality on the ground? A top-of-the-line American F-15E Strike Eagle gets shot down. And just like that, 2 American crewmen are now trapped in hostile Iranian territory.
And that one event kicks off this insane high-stakes race against the clock. So one of the pilots gets rescued pretty fast, but the other crewman, the weapons systems officer, he's gone, missing. And now it's this desperate search. Who's gonna find him first? The Americans or the Iranians?
The story of what this airman went through, according to the source, is just incredible. I mean, he ejects, he's injured, and what does he do? He climbs to an altitude of 7,000 feet, hikes through these dangerous mountains, and manages to hide out behind enemy lines for more than 24 hours. And get this, he sends out this covert 3-word radio message, God is good. That message is what kicks off this whole historic rescue.
So this rescue operation was a whole production. We're talking multiple stages here. First, the CIA launches a deception campaign, basically spreading fake info to send the Iranian search parties in the wrong direction. Then, once they pinpoint the airman's exact location, US planes come in and strike the area to keep Iranian forces away. And finally, they send in the big guns, Delta Force and Navy SEALs, to get him out.
And yeah, the mission was a success. The airman was rescued, and you better believe the president celebrated it. But here's the kicker. The source points out that this success came at a really steep price. We're talking 1 warplane crashed, 2 helicopters hit, 2 transport aircraft damaged. Kind of punches a hole in that whole total air dominance claim, doesn't it?
So this whole incident was seen as a major embarrassment, and it apparently made President Trump furious. This is when he starts issuing these escalating deadlines, one after another, basically pushing the entire region closer and closer to the edge of an all-out war. Think about this. 4 separate times, the US sets a deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which, is a super critical channel for global oil. And 4 times, as the analysis lays it out, Iran just ignores them. Every single time, just ratcheting up that tension a little bit more.
And that's when the language gets really heated, really personal. It all leads to this unbelievable social media post. It honestly sounds less like a statement from a world leader and more like a raw personal threat.
And then, just when it seems like it's all over, with only 90 minutes left on the clock, something completely unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, Pakistan steps in and brokers a deal, a last-minute 2-week ceasefire.
It's like the whole world just pulled back from the cliff edge.
But that relief didn't last long. The peace talks that followed in Islamabad, they fell apart and fast. And it really came down to one huge fundamental disagreement that they just couldn't get past. The US wanted Iran's entire nuclear program gone, dismantled. Iran was only willing to offer a 5-year pause. It was a non-starter.
So, with the talks failing and this ceasefire just ticking away, the tension is still simmering. And the fallout from all this starts to ripple out, way beyond just the Middle East. It starts hitting global trade, and pretty soon other major world powers are getting dragged into the mix.
The Strait of Hormuz just becomes this powder keg. The US Navy slaps a complete blockade on Iranian ports. That gets a sharp warning from China, telling the US to back off its ships. Meanwhile, Iran is flip-flopping daily on whether the strait is open or closed, and their forces actually start firing on neutral Indian merchant vessels. It's just total chaos, threatening to grind the whole global economy to a halt.
And that's where the source material leaves us, on this massive cliffhanger. The 2-week ceasefire is about to end, and the whole world is just watching and waiting and asking this one terrifying question. Are they going to save the deal? Or is that civilization-ending war about to kick off all?
Subscribe to my channel.